Today's guest started as an administrative assistant with nothing more than a fierce curiosity and a whole lot of questions. Now she finds herself as the first HR director at Voce, where people, policies, and purpose collide. Sarah Sayler doesn't just sit at the leadership table, she makes sure others find their voice there too. Her greatest achievements aren't found in accolades or org charts. They're tucked inside the courageous conversations that she didn't have alone and the wild ideas that only worked because someone said, let's try. Stick around because Sarah's core values will follow you long after the episode ends. It's the kind of truth legacy is built on. This is the Cultivate Experience. Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Welcome back to a fresh episode of Cultivate. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming a dynamic leader in human resources, Sarah Sayler with Voce. You live in the land of curiosity, and I can't wait to share just a bit of what you and I have been able to talk about, to dive into with the audience. I'm thrilled to have you join us for the Cultivate Experience today.
Thanks so much for having me, Wendy. It was really great talking to you before we got this set up. And so it's just nice to be in a conversation with you again.
Well, Sarah, you have done a great job in sticking with me, sticking with the Cultivate Experience. Life happens, right? And we've got to walk through that with our titles and our experiences and our responsibilities at home. And so I just want to say we talk about that time that we've had before, what I affectionately call our green room time. And for us, that started about 6 months ago, right? When we had to actually postpone this conversation. I'm grateful to actually be sitting down with you today because the last time we were scheduled, your team was facing what I think is an unthinkable crisis. And I just want to honor our time by saying that was a weighty moment that you walked through really well for your folks, but then also the to be able to come back and say, hey, I want to continue this conversation. I think that just speaks to the legacy in your leadership and the courage to return to this table.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Sarah, we're going to continue to walk through what this journey, because that's what it is. When we think about leading, influencing, it is a journey and not one that we are called to do on our own. And so I want, first of all, we have this space that we know that we talk about, which is the why here at the Cultivate Experience. You have one, I have one, the organization has one. What's our purpose, right? What's that vision that we're walking out? And when they're aligned, when the individual and the organization are aligned in that space, wow, that is when magic happens. That's when we really truly see ourselves go from just a thought of what it could be to seeing these things come to fruition and action in the lives of others. So give the audience a little bit of that taste of your why, and then Voce, what does that look like at Voce? How does that come together for you and the organization?
Sure. So Voce is unique in my opinion. Voce means voice. It's Italian, and we're a change agent. So we use our voice and we empower others to use theirs to create positive change that makes a difference in people's lives. And we believe that the society should have a place where everyone belongs and they're empowered to thrive. It's part of our DNA, it's part of our values and who we are as an agency. And so I think what makes us unique is that we pioneered a model that is nationally recognized for expediting adoptions and supporting families. We actually work within systems to support those systems to move a little bit more effectively. And now we provide consultation and training to agencies throughout the country in the areas of trauma and loss, adoption and permanency, diversity and inclusion, and individual and family well-being. So I think one thing that's really common for somebody that works at our organization, and for myself included, is that you have a desire to support other people and to help other
Mm.
people and make a difference in the world. And we can measure our success when we know that other people are thriving and that we're able to bring those resources to others so that they can fulfill their potential as well. And ultimately, for our organization, we're talking about serving kids that are in care. And so that is helping them find their forever home, whether that means we're serving somebody directly with a task that's going to impact that case, or we're supporting somebody else who's working directly with that child. I think it really unites our mission and our values to be able to move in that coordinated effort of knowing that we are all helping in our own area of expertise.
Wow. Well, first of all, no small feat, right?
No.
Everything that you just spoke about, the impact that that has when done well. And if it's not intentional and it's not
Mm,
done well, if it's not done in that collaborative spirit that you just spoke of, and if the organization wants to see this as being theirs and their own, and not looking to how do we bring others into the space who are already maybe working in that space,
mm,
we could be missing out on so much
yeah.
of that great work. I love the name. Say it one more time,
Yeah.
and the meaning again.
Yep. So it's voce, and it's the Italian word for voice.
We want to be heard, right?
Everyone.
Everyone has a voice,
Hmm.
but that desire to be heard, I think, how intentional to put it right out there in the name. This is who we are, but not just for us. We're this for you,
Yeah.
right? And calling those voices up. That's a thing of true beauty, but it would only stay there again if we did not, and you've talked about it, about the people right where they are,
Hmm.
starting with their story. And sometimes, most times, that's right in the middle, right? That's
Yeah.
right in the middle of the messy and all the life that's taken place. You know, in our conversations and as you've shared, you've made the statement that leaders must be both approachable and competent, right? There,
Yeah.
it is not an either or, it is a both and.
Yes.
Where do you feel that that belief really took root, took shape for you?
Sure.
And how are you walking that out in your leadership voice today?
I mean, I think it's always a challenge because I think that they challenge each other at times. There's
Mm-hmm.
the instinct to be approachable, and that can sometimes compromise the competence, and vice versa, right? You might have an instinct to respond with an answer and not realize how that's going to impact the person that you're delivering the answer to. And I think that a lot of it was through personal observations in my career and seeing the benefit of being approachable. You can't do your job if people aren't coming to you and talking to you about what's going on, especially in HR. And you can't do your job if you're not competent and you don't understand the different regulations and compliance factors that lead to the eventual outcome. But the combination of those two has been learned. I was actually at a SHRM conference a few years ago, and the guest speaker got up and talked about some research that was done and described it as warmth and competence, and how those are two key successors for people in business. And I laughed out loud because I'm like, okay, well, I was onto something. I didn't have the right terminology for it, but I was onto something there. And so it is something that I'm passionate about. I think that it's always a balancing act in any circumstance. I think you have to challenge yourself. How am I coming off to somebody right now? And do they feel like they can talk to me? Am I creating a safe place for them to approach me with what's going on? But am I not getting into the people pleasing that's going to compromise that
Mm.
competence element? And then again, on the competence element, am I evaluating all the options? Am I taking the time to hear the person's need beyond what they're asking for? Is there leeway for me to be able to stretch something and maybe come up with a solution that they hadn't thought of? Or am I getting into that automatic no instinct when somebody asks you something and you know that the answer is no? And so I haven't figured out the secret, but I will say that it is definitely an emphasis and something that I think about a lot. Anyone that works on my HR team knows that Sarah will tell you we have to be approachable and competent. It's one of our driving forces as a group.
Those are the things you're anchoring your team in.
Yeah.
You're anchored in that. And, you know, so it becomes our non negotiable, right? We
Hmm.
we talk about having a mission, we've got a vision. You have to have those core values, and that's what I'm hearing from you is that is what you're anchoring your team in and how they do their work, the lens in which they have they see others, and then the voice that they speak and have those conversations. This is one of the areas that you and I gelled on in our first conversations in that green room time, is because you're right. We don't have an unlock. We haven't had it all figured out. But when I heard you say and share, where you stood in this space, it spoke directly to my heart of compassionate accountability. Again,
Mm.
it's both of those things. I
Yeah.
have to hear and see you as the human who's sitting across the desk from me and coming to share full world of what's
Yeah.
going on, not just the title. And there's that accountability factor. I've got to be competent in what I'm coming to you with. And I have a responsibility to influence and call you up into your competency. Right. And that is where we both grow in that space. And I love that. I love that not only are you saying it, but you're bringing that again to your team in this space of this is who we are and how we will interact and engage with those that are in our sphere. That goes back to the space that we're talking about so much in this season, and that's a legacy. That doesn't just stay with you and the team here at Voce. They're going to take that with them, right? Where take them outside of their work. If so
Mhm.
personal, we've talked about family, and when there's an opportunity and if there's a change in space and then they walk their leadership out someplace else. And that's how we know we're making such a difference that is impactful. This speaks to our culture, right? And when we talk about culture in workplace, we know that culture does what? It eats strategy for lunch, breakfast, and dinner too. If it is unhealthy, if it's not in a place, in a space that everyone can find themselves in healthy interaction with it, then we can forget about anything we're strategizing about. When we talk about this steadiness in compassion, right? Your team is walking through and engaging, as you shared up front, with community that is in trauma and crisis,
Yeah.
right? And there's heaviness of life that's happening, so that compassion part can really come out. What have you learned about the role HR plays in moments like that, where we still have human resource policies, we still have to get these things done, there are still those no's that have to be said? How do you do that? How do you walk that balancing act?
Yeah, that's tough. I think that it's hard to answer that question without there being a specific circumstance. But again, I think that goes back to hearing the need and seeing the person beyond the request that they're coming to you with. You might get a simple email of, can I do this? Or the policy
Hmm.
says that, is this permissible? And if you are connected enough or you're paying attention enough, then oftentimes you can stretch beyond that box and maybe ask a question and say, well, that there's a limitation there, but what are we hoping to achieve? Because we might be able to get there in a different pathway. We might be able to get you the resource that you need or the flexibility that you need that will make your job easier, that will make your life easier, just in a different venue than the way the person is originally asking. I think that also if there's a question that's more clear cut and it's black and white and it really is a yes or no concrete situation you're dealing with, just take a moment to be able to explain why the answer
Mm.
is there and try to do it as much as you can with a human touch. I know that in some circumstances, especially if it's leave related and it's news that is just going to be really challenging, a phone call to be able to have a voice on the other end of the phone to be able to explain something and recognize, like, I am delivering a message, but this is not personal. This is news that needs to be relayed, and I will explain it to you as much as I possibly can so that you can digest it, and hopefully they can walk away from that with a better understanding, and feeling supported, even if they're not getting what they're asking for. I think is really important to make sure that people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. And
Mm.
so when you're saying no, try to keep in mind how you're making somebody feel. They're already asking you for permission on something. There's probably a power differential there already. Are you creating that safety for them? Are you acknowledging who they are? And are you trying to do it with support, or are you rushed and busy and trying to get an email out in the next 3 minutes before you have a meeting at the expense of building a relationship with somebody that you have limited opportunities to interact with?
Well, I think, you said it earlier just before this question, it's hard to speak into this without an example. You
Yeah.
just painted a picture that we've all sat in. I have got to get this out. This information needs to be relayed. But you just said the human factor says someone's going to receive this on the other end.
Yeah.
And will it take more time to actually pick up the phone? Do we have some teammates who are like, a conversation? I don't know about a conversation, because it does become more intimate in that space. But tone, right?
Yeah.
Tone matters. And
Hmm.
and that can be taken in so many different ways when it is put in writing. And we know we want to make sure things are clear. And if we can, and that emotion can mix that up. And when you can say, I hear you, I see you, give that opportunity for dialogue in that space, I think that, yes, we have now done what we all really know we want to do, which is to build trust within
Yeah.
these relationships, right? Human resources sits in a space where you are as much a part of the team as you are speaking into leaders who are leading teams. And so that's a dynamic that really has to be this balancing act, because you
Mm.
got to walk the talk
Yeah.
each and every time. Um, I appreciate that you gave us that real life that we could all go, oh yeah, I know that. 2.5 minutes. Let me get this out. Or do I hold? Do I let someone know? And I just received this most recently. Hey, I hear you,
Mm.
but I'm going to wait to give you an answer until I can do it the best. And I'm going to tell you, it rocked me to my core, because it put me in a place of, do I do that? Do I do that enough?
Mm.
And so that's what I'm hearing from you. And that's a great thing that you're pouring that into your team, because this is an emotionally complex environment that you're working in,
Yeah.
with the work that you're doing outside of, but then also your teammates. You shared that your greatest achievements are found in people, work with people, the messy
Mm.
middle, turning wild ideas into reality, right? Big, hairy, audacious, but how do we put feet to it, and encouraging growth?
Mhm.
Is there a story of one of those moments, as much as you can tell with
Sure.
as whatever details, but I think that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the pandemic, I know it's the thing we
Mhm.
don't want to talk about anymore because we're so over it, but it was a really beautiful time, I think, in terms of collaboration and
Mhm.
learning how to partner together to get something wild done that none of us knew that we had to get done. Our organization is about 400 people, and about 250 of them report to a physical on site location. And I
Mhm.
cannot take credit for this. This predates me, but we did mobilize the entire workforce that was on site within 3 business days to be able to work remotely for the first time in the history of our company. It was 20 years that we had been operating to remote work in 3 days because of the pandemic. And then the harder journey was, how do we bring people back? Because now we've been in this space for a while and we have a contract. So we are funded through a subcontract with our partner that has the contract with the state of Pennsylvania. And so negotiating what our business model looks like isn't an independent decision just for our organization. It requires negotiating that with our 2 partners and our funder. And so we had to really be strategic about how we approach that. Is what are we asking for, and how can we model this in a way that is sustainable,
Mhm.
specifically hybrid work. It was very, very challenging to figure out how to get that started. And I think a lot of people felt like it was too big to start biting off a piece of it. And through these regular connection meetings that we were having to try to figure out how to manage COVID, we suddenly became gelled enough and cohesive enough that we were willing to start asking a question and then asking another question and then saying, wait, maybe this will work and maybe this will work. And then suddenly, after it took about a year and a half to negotiate and define what that would look like, we were able to implement a telework policy for those individuals that were previously in the office every single day. And it's been 2 years and it's working. I think that that's the fun, right? Is seeing the need, partnering with other people, realizing you can't do it entirely on your own, but together we can do it. If we all get together behind this thing, we can accomplish it. And so I think that's where the achievement lies, is knowing that you get to be part of something bigger than yourself because of your partnership with other people. And because of those relationships that you've built, that I hope at the end of my career, I look back and I say, 99% of what I did is because I was brave enough to do it with somebody else instead of trying to do it myself. And
Well,
so that's a example.
that right there. Say that again. 99%. No, seriously, because I think that and I do want you to actually say it again. I'm going to pause. Do you remember what you said?
I said that at the end of my career, I hope that I reflect and realize that 99% of what I did was because I was willing to partner with somebody else and it wasn't something that I could do by myself.
That's a t-shirt, that's a bumper sticker, that's the hat, seriously, but that's got to be true for all of us.
Yeah.
That's the legacy that each of us need to want to cling to. That's what we're working towards, right?
Yeah.
When we think about our world, and it can become really heavy of the
Yeah.
things that are going on, people that we know, family members that are in spaces that are really hard. God bless. We won't get into all of it, but how it is splitting some households and families over decisions that are being made outside of ourselves. But
Yeah.
when we come down to it, what you just said, when we can make that a reality, when that can be the focus on this is wild and crazy and hard, and I am not called to do this alone.
Yeah.
And the empowerment in that, to the point of your story, you're right. Nobody wants to go talking about 2019, 2020, 2021. But there really are some fantastic things that
Yeah.
came out of that really hard, wild and crazy time, that if we can really look and say, well, what? Because we did it together.
Oh, for
Because we
sure.
did it together.
Hmm.
Right? And it wasn't about you, me. And so, how can we harness that power and
Hmm.
continue to bring that with us? We don't have to be shut down again
Yeah.
to take that with us and to be able to do great things. So, thank you. I mean, that's the highlight of and you shared so many great things, but I'm like, what? We've gotta highlight that space. And that's not something that you're just holding on to. I can tell. And right, that's how you are with your team, being able to speak into managers and those who are leading other teams to be
Mhm.
able to say, hey, this is how we do this. And you said it earlier, sustainably,
Yeah.
sustainably well.
Yeah.
And so I really, really appreciate that. You know, smaller how do small HR choices, right? What may seem like, well, this is something that isn't that. How do we take those and have those become long-term shifts in this culture? I think you
Yeah.
gave us a bit of that, but what does it take to say, okay, we're going to start here, but how do we not let go of it?
I think that small choices lead to overall culture. It just takes time before you're able to recognize that in hindsight. And
Mm,
so I do think that taking every decision and evaluating, is it something that's sustainable? Is it something that I can replicate? Is it something that's fair and equitable to other people? If we do this, is we're making those small choices and commitments, whether we're taking the time to acknowledge that that's what they are or not. And people talk, right? So if you allow one person one thing and not the other,
mm,
there's going to be a conversation and there's going to be a questioning of why, and maybe even a sense of something not being fair, which is eventually going to impact morale. And so I think that those little choices is a consistency thing. It's also the relational leadership aspect of, are you consulting with the people that have decision making capabilities in this scenario to be able to finesse the way that we go about doing this? And that's going to help with change management too. Is are the experts that have to manage it after you make a decision okay with the decision that you're making? Are they speaking into it, and are they going to bring a perspective that you wouldn't have if you didn't talk to them? And I think that that's where the together we can comes back into play, is that we are better if we have multiple perspectives. We are better if we have more information. And that's going to in turn make things more sustainable because we've vetted those small choices and we're now building a system. They're no longer isolated small choices. We're now building something and working toward a better business because we are creating patterns. We're creating expectations.
I love it. I love it. And what I'm hearing, and it is a small step that will make greater impact, is being intentional. Who's around that decision making table?
Yes.
How many voices? Which voices are we actually bringing those around the table? Like you said, hey, we're making a decision. Are the implementers around the table? Right? And when we look at those who are on our team, do we actually know what their strengths are?
Yeah.
Where's that kryptonite? Right? Being
Mhm.
aware of who we are individually. So there's that self awareness, and then being others aware so that we can have these to make the best choices so we can have that sustainable outcome that we are looking for, that we're speaking about. So we don't just sit in a place of frustration, right? Because
Right.
so much of why people can get themselves up in arms, or when we talk about, man, we can't keep good people, have we actually recognized who they are? And then are we utilizing, calling them up into those spaces, giving them opportunity to grow in those spaces, and having them have a seat and a voice at this decision making table?
It's
What a beautiful
risky,
picture.
right?
It
Like, it's
is.
very risky to say,
It
I think I
is.
see potential here. I'm going to give you an opportunity, and eventually it's going to come back on me, whether it goes well or not. And so I think that's where a lot of people maybe get hung up, right? Is that if you're going to earn trust, you have to give trust, and you have to take those risks and recognize that we can do it together. And it might be a try, fail, adjust kind of situation, but we can do it. And that's going to help the other person who's contributing to your project to develop their strengths. And if you already see a strength in them and you give them a chance to try, fail, adjust, they're going to become stronger, and they're going to become more of a resource to you and to your organization and to the company. But we're all human. We all make mistakes. We have to get comfortable with that to a certain degree, comfortable with that we can have that space to learn on the job and to fix it on the job, because fixing it is just as important as getting it done sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What you just defined, Sarah, and I'm like blown away with this. As a good friend of mine says, hair on fire moment, is that you just defined empowerment.
Mm,
Truly the definition of empowerment, right? It is risky. It
yeah.
is messy. It's downright scary sometimes. But that is exactly when we say the words that we are here to empower others through our leadership. That's what it looks like.
Hmm.
And so you just put beautifully into words what we as leaders have to keep in front of us constantly, and that's what we have to have as the lens that we're seeing through, that we're asking others to walk in and to call them up into, is this place of, are we truly empowering, or are we just saying the words?
Mm,
And I love that you put that charge out there for us. You know, this season that we're in, at the Cultivate experience, we're exploring this idea of a legacy worth leaving, because at the end of the day,
mm.
we're not doing this just for us. And so I'm curious, as we turn the corner and kind of wrapping up our time, if you could lean over and whisper one truth to a new HR leader, someone emerging in the field, or even maybe thinking about it, and they're stepping into a people first role for the first time, what do you want them to know, as this has got to be your guiding truth in this space?
That is really tough. I think so much of the way that I lead and I mentor and I coach is dependent on knowing the person. And
Mhm.
so, without knowing who the other person is, that's really hard for me to answer. I have said this to somebody before, and it was somebody that was a new HR individual. And I said, you are more capable than you know. And sometimes it's making the decision and hoping that it's right. And I think there's so much truth to that, is that you have to sharpen your skill, whether that's interpersonal skills or that's competency, whatever it is. And then sometimes you just have to make a decision and go with it and be willing to clean it up or adjust it along the way and just hope that it's right. Sometimes you get lucky and it works out perfectly, and other times you learn. The biggest mistakes that we make are the things that are biggest learning opportunities too. And so, um, yeah, I think that's probably what I would say to anyone.
Well, and you said, "Man, this is hard," and it is. But instead of giving us one, you gave us two. And I'm going to tell you what, you're
Mm,
absolutely correct. Our biggest learning teach those moments are when we're like, "Oh man, I messed that up."
Yeah.
And we do have to learn through it. And then you own it, right?
Yeah.
You own that space. I don't have all the answers. So that definitely is that lean over, let me whisper. But where you started, when you started to answer that question, that's one of those, get to know the person, be
Mhm.
curious. You said, hey, this is not a cookie cut answer for one and done for every. And so that's a piece of great advice to be able to lean in and say to someone new in this people leading space is, make sure you see the individual, be
Mhm.
curious, ask the question before you even attempt to give an answer. So I asked for one and you gave me a BOGO. So I I really appreciate that, and I know that our audience will as well, because sometimes those are the things that seem to be, I don't know, shouldn't we just do that? Or hey,
Mhm.
I've learned this, like you said, by not doing it the first time or not doing that right, that we overlook. And those are core values. Those are some core spaces of, hey, let's remember, because you're talking to this girl. I have often said, people show me who they are, they don't tell me who they are. And that is not, that's not true. I mean, I see actions. I still, as the leader, as the influencer, have to be willing to be curious and ask why. Why did you respond that way? Or
Mhm.
why did this seem, why this appears to change? There appears to be, tell me more.
Yeah.
As to what I am, what I'm seeing and experiencing seems to be different from where we were. And so when you share that, that's a reminder we're all in a place where we need to continue to sharpen these things, that and not allow them to drift and become an afterthought. This has been fantastic. 6 months in the waiting, but boy, was it worth every moment. You have, I know what you've done for me, as I go back and take notes from what you shared with us today. It'll impact my leadership. I know it'll do the same for our listeners and those who are interacting, engaging. I and if you've watched the show, would be remiss if I didn't jump into that rapid fire. Got to know a little bit more about Sarah.
Sure.
So I want to know, a little stress comes with HR work here or there. What's that space for you? Is it a sweet or is it a salty snack? Is it a snack at all?
Oh, well, it's definitely a snack, but I think about food way too much. It occupies pretty much all of my downtime. I hated being called a foodie when that was a trend a while ago. I've now embraced it. I love food. I love cooking. I love learning about it. So, I would say the refreshing moment is if I get to prepare it for myself and learn something new and enjoy it. And I don't know. I like both. I like salty and sweet. I want both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the fact that you love to prepare it
Yeah.
and sit down and enjoy, that means that there's going to be a great presentation for it. This is just one more reason that we've got to meet in person, because I love that space. I love that space of preparing. I'll have people say, but it's just for you. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm
Yes.
worth that. We're going to do this
Oh yeah,
thing.
it's
We're going to,
cathartic.
right?
A little oil
That,
and
that,
pan, chop a vegetable. It's like, yeah, I get to zone out for a minute and eat something healthy. It's great.
Come on. All right. So I know that you're in the hybrid workspace.
Yeah.
Is there a phrase, a quote, something that's in your workspace, maybe right now or in the past, that this is your mantra. This is
Mm.
something that you really hold strong to. Is that happening for you now, or it has?
I don't have any inspirational quotes around me. I am kind of a minimalist or very sentimental when I decorate. So
Yes.
I would say if you ask my team, they would probably say that the things they hear from me the most are everybody makes mistakes. What matters is how you respond to them. Or they hear the the approachable and the competence phrase pretty often. Those are the ones that they're going to hear from me on repeat.
Well, and I can see that it comes through in all of. Now we've got a new one for you, and it's a little bit longer. We might need a 11 by 17, but that 99%,
Oh,
we're going to have to get that printed, and that's got to go somewhere. But no, I appreciate that. And then again, the audience would have they would not be happy. Favorite ice cream flavor. This is important, and it doesn't matter
mm,
what weather we're in, cold or hot. You got to have one. What
Man,
is it?
anything with chocolate and peanut butter, but I think that
Ah,
Panda Paws is tough to beat. Chocolate ice cream with peanut butter ripple, but like not skimpy peanut butter ripple. Don't, if I wanted chocolate ice cream, I'd order chocolate ice cream. So I think that chocolate peanut butter combination has my attention anytime I'm ordering ice cream.
Sarah, that just got real serious. I
Yeah,
mean, you like there's ratios here. It makes a difference. I love it. Well,
everyone's been disappointed when there's not enough of what's advertised in their ice cream.
well, you're right there with my sisters. They're all about that chocolate and peanut butter.
Mm.
I mean, they love me anyway. That is not the space that I am in, but I've heard the same thing. Oh no, don't be skimping on any of
Yeah.
that. So
Well, what's
I,
yours?
I re- oh, it's salted caramel. It
Oh, that's
is.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
love that kind of sweet savory.
Hmm.
It's and I would agree. Ratio matters. You
Yes.
don't say that it's salted caramel and all I'm getting is caramel and no hint of that salt. Yeah, there's got to
Hmm.
be.
You
Yeah,
can't go
so
overboard with the salt either, because that would be
no, no, no,
equally.
no, no,
Mm-mm.
no.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
No, none of that. We've got a local vendor here that does it really well. My sister
Ooh.
just introduced me to, and I'm like, that's dangerous, but so good. And
Now I
now I
know
know
what I
there's a
need for
there's a
Christmas.
pop-up happening
Yeah.
sometime between now and I'm like, oh yeah, got to visit there. So Sarah, this has been great. Thank you for showing us the path to leadership. You've paved what you've shown us today is that you're paving this with trust, curiosity, the courage to build culture in the midst of deep, heavy, hard work, sometimes crisis. This is what it looks like when we have a people first legacy. And that's what we're here to really emphasize and talk about. It has been an absolute pleasure having time with you today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was very enjoyable to talk with you, and that hour went by way faster than I thought it would.
It moves.
It
It
moves.
moves.
Yes.
It does. It does. Well, we're on the same coast, the same time zone.
Mhm.
So I always say that to guests when we start to wrap up, like this isn't it. We'll have other conversations, and it could happen in person.
Yeah,
So I look forward to that as an opportunity. So again, thank you so much.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cultivate collaborators, you know that that's a wrap today, but remember, it's never truly over because each of us brings our own special flavor to the mix of relational leadership. So until next time, keep stirring things up, making an impact, and being better together. Thanks, everyone. Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivate, FOR, good.com.